What's up, y'all?
What's up, everyone? Welcome.
Hello.
Yay!
Good to see
Welcome,
y'all.
everyone. It's good to see y'all, too. I feel like it's been a long time, but it really hasn't.
Yeah, it has.
Well, welcome, everyone, to Meet in the Ladies' Room, a bi-weekly podcast where you get to eavesdrop into what is talked about. Where, ladies?
In the ladies' room.
Awesome. So please make sure you subscribe and follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can also follow our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere that you can find your podcasts. As you can see, we're a little light today. We are missing Jana and Cassie, but we know they're out there doing great things and they're going to come back and report to us on next show. So we are really, really happy about that. So what do you guys like? I'm like really excited about the holiday coming up. Are y'all excited about the holiday?
You know I'm excited about eating. You know I'm excited about eating. What y'all cooking and what y'all eating?
Well, my kids usually just ask for the basics, right? They want turkey, they want sweet potatoes, they want green beans, but they always ask me for my banana pudding. I have a banana pudding that I make. It's from scratch. It's my grandmama's recipe, so I use like sweet condensed milk and egg, and I whip the little topping up myself. I use bananas and Nilla wafers, so no Jello pudding is in my banana pudding. So that's what we got going on for Thanksgiving. Okay. What y'all got going on?
So I'm not a banana pudding person, but what was the name of that dessert that you had when we came to in Tennessee? Because I'm gonna need you to ship me some of that.
That's the banana pudding.
What's the name of it?
I thought that was the
no, that wasn't a banana pudding.
Oh, chess pie.
The husband made.
Ooh,
chess pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need some of that.
Chess.
Okay, but
I didn't even know what chess pie was.
Girl, it was delicious. So for my family, we're not doing a traditional Thanksgiving dinner because nobody wants turkey. Nobody wants to be like in the kitchen all day. So we are gonna have some of my mom's staples. So I'm making her macaroni and cheese. But we're gonna do lamb chops. We're gonna do them two ways. We're gonna have grilled lamb chops, and then my father has a dish that he's made before, plenty of times that I've seen him, and I just got the scoop on how to make it. So it's lamb chops but with like a gravy. So it's gonna be that. Then we're doing fresh green beans and sweet potatoes, but not even like casserole or whatever, like bacon sweet potatoes, and everybody get an assortment of fixings. You fix it how you want to have it or whatever, and going on about your business. Go home, okay?
That sounds good.
So that's what we're having.
Awesome. Cam, what you got going on?
So what about you, Cam?
I don't know, but I just know I want to eat. This is what I want to eat, and I might start a debate, but I want to eat some dressing made from Jiffy. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, it's like I don't even understand how you accomplish making dressing with Jiffy cornbread mix. Like, how does that even work?
Me either.
It's so good. It's so
Jiffy
good
is
to
sweet.
Me. Yes, that's what it is. Because I like it sweet for some reason, and I can eat it spicy. I like all of it, but that's my favorite. That's what I like to eat for the holidays.
Okay. You know how to make it?
Mm-hmm. I know how to make both ways. I don't know how to make it from scratch.
I don't want none. I was just asking if you know how to make it.
Shut up. But I do want some of them lamb chops.
I don't want none. Because we make our cornbread. Our cornbread is not sweet, so we make it from scratch. Like my mom, she took like the cornmeal. There was a certain brand. I had to make sure I got the certain brand. You know what I'm saying? Then it's like eggs, whatever it calls for. But it's just we don't do sweet. It's like we either have cornbread like in pans or what my daddy called hoe cakes, which are like cornbread pancakes. But none of them are sweet though. So we would take that and like, break it up and then add all the other stuff, making sure you add one of the secret ingredients is sage. But you got to know how to add the sage so that your dressing is not green. Because ain't nobody eating green dressing. It's those kind of things. Like, but my mama didn't measure. So it was really like, you got to eyeball it. So I had to pay attention because I'm like, I'm not trying to have my first pan of dressing be green and then everybody be like, she can't make it for the rest of her life. You know
Yeah, because once you mess up a dish at Thanksgiving, you are not invited to cook that.
No, you can't. You can't do it no more. I wonder if the hoe cakes Jen are talking about. I wonder if that's the same thing as hot water cornbread. But see, hot water cornbread is sweet too, so I don't know.
Well, hot water cornbread is fried. I don't think hoe cakes are fried, are they?
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know.
I don't think so. But I think as long as we're having dressing and not stuffing, I think that we're doing okay.
No.
You have dressing, I'm coming. If you have stuffing, I am not coming to your house at all.
Stuffing, I'm stuffing in the trash because I'm not eating it. Like, that's what that stands for. Stuffing in the trash because everybody want that. Yep.
Oh man. All right. We have a really, really, really good show for y'all tonight. Tonight is our health and wellness episode, and we are highlighting Black maternity rates in the country. And we have brought someone very awesome to join in on the conversation with us. I was doing some research before coming on, and I ran across an article in Salon, and it said that in 2020, the maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic Black women was 55.3 deaths per 100 live births. Mm-hmm. So to put that in perspective for y'all, that is 3 to 4 times more than white women. And this is regardless of education, income, or any other socioeconomic factors. And the crazy part about that is we are more likely to experience preventable maternal death when compared to white women, which to me is just absolutely crazy. Some of my friends know that I took a doula class, I think like a month ago, and I really enjoyed learning about the difference that midwifery-led care has done, especially for our community. So if you don't know, a midwife is a professional that assists with deliveries, the same way that an OBGYN, but definitely not using the same methods. And we'll talk about that with our guest. But it's a great thing when our care is led by people who look like us, but only 5% of the midwives that are in the United States are women of color. So I'm very glad that we have one, and we have one who is a Howard alum. Ebony Simpson is a full-time community midwife with over 25 years of healthcare experience. She started her career in community health education and has held various positions in pharmacy, occupational health, emergency medicine, inpatient nursing, palliative care nursing, and even healthcare communications. She graduated from the Howard University, the real HU, with a degree in journalism, but then went on to earn a Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Emory University in Atlanta, a Master's of Science in Midwifery at Frontier Nursing University, and completed her clinical training at George Washington University Hospital. She currently works at Birth Care and Women's Health, where they provide home birth and birth center options for DC metro area residents. In addition to midwifery, she is passionate about exploring African culture and plant medicine. So I want you all to join me in a chi-chi shake to having Miss Ebony Simpson on tonight. Yay!
You guys are awesome. What happened to the chi-chi shake? I don't know shake.
There we go. Well, Ebony, thank you again for being on with us. I really feel like this is a subject that definitely needs a lot more light shined on it. So can you just give us a little bit about your background? Well, not the hard details, but the soft ones. And what kind of led your journey to become a midwife?
Yes. Okay, so my journey, actually, it started really young. I want to say I was about 11 when I realized that I was completely obsessed with pregnant ladies and newborns. But it took me some time to get on the road to midwifery. When I entered college, I was pre-med. This is before I got to Howard. And then somewhere between leaving New York State, I was in a school there, and coming to Howard, I think Sex and the City was popular at that time. So I decided that I wanted to be Samantha from Sex and the City. So that's how I ended up studying public relations at Howard University. So totally got turned around. But I still focused in healthcare communications because I was always just big on, healthy living. And junior year, minding my business, one of these dudes that like to hang around Howard University campus caught my eye. And next thing you know, I was pregnant and in college. And, decided to take a year off, go back home to Brooklyn, have my baby. And one of my good girlfriends from high school, her sister had just had a baby and she tried to do a birth center birth. Unfortunately, she had to transfer because she had just like a really, really long labor. But when I heard about it, I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. I'm always down to do something different. And it was just basically like a brownstone. It was in Dyker Heights, Brooklyn, if you know Brooklyn, kind of like a Jewish neighborhood. And small waiting room, 2 birthing rooms, which look like bedrooms. And I continued. 2 midwives were seeing me. And like I always tell people my birth story, I went into labor around 11 p.m. and I called my midwife, and she's a Jewish lady. She said, drink a gallon of water and go to bed. And I thought she was crazy. I was like, what do you mean drink a gallon of water and go to bed? But I did what she told me to do. And when I had a full night's sleep, woke up the next morning, my water broke, went to the birth center. I was 5 centimeters.
Wow.
She checked me. And then she said, okay, get in the tub. It's like, okay, got in the tub. And she brought me some oodles and noodles, cup of noodles, actually. She put on Light FM, which is our version of Quiet Storm. She lit a candle. And my homegirl, who was like, because I was a single mom, the dad wasn't there. He was in DC. My homegirl was like my unofficial doula. I didn't even know what a doula was, but I was just like, come on, girl, come. I want you to be at my birth. She videotaped, and I'd labored in the jacuzzi for a while. Eventually, I asked her to step out. And next thing I know, somebody came into the room to check on me, and she put her hands between my legs and she goes, Miss Simpson. And I'm like, what? And I put my hand between my legs and like the head is there. Totally like lost track of time, was completely in the zone. They got me out because water birth wasn't a thing at that time. This is in 2004. Got me out. That was the first time I said a curse word. Right? And 19 minutes later, I had my baby.
Wow.
I went home in 6 hours. The midwife came to my house after day 1 just to check on us. Everything went really smooth. I mean, it really was the easiest thing. And when people ask me about my birth, I would say it was the most fun, adventurous, amazing day of my life. And of course, people would look at me like I had 3 heads, but that was the reality. It wasn't until I actually graduated Howard, went back to nursing school, and started seeing how the average woman births that I was like, oh, wow, that was really something exceptional. So, yeah.
Your story is very unique.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, because my first birth was definitely not like that.
Horrible.
Well, Ebony, I gave a little spiel in the beginning about rates when it comes to us in maternal care. And of course, not many people know this, but as developed and as great of a country we are, we do rank 55th of developed nations in maternal deaths, with Black women being at risk the most when it comes to giving birth in this country. Can you talk about the importance of Black midwives, especially in the current climate that we're in right now?
Yeah. I always talk about being a student at Emory and being like one of our class was 100, and there were 8 Black people that started, and maybe like 4 that finished. And no matter what
Oh
we
wow.
discussed, yeah, no matter if we were discussing respiratory illness or skin disorders or, heart stuff, Black people always had the worst outcomes. And I was so sick of hearing. I was like, literally, no matter what disease you're talking about, we always die the most. So it's, it was no surprise to me when, we started becoming more aware of the statistics. And really, that was like in 2000. If you look at a graph for like Black maternal mortality in 2000, the number really goes up. And it's not because all of a sudden women started dying. It's all of a sudden we started counting.
Wow.
The ways of getting that information through like the Department of Vital Records has really historically been different in every state. They were not always counting deaths that happened in the first year of life after having a baby as being a cause of perinatal mortality. They weren't like considering that. They were just focusing on the first 6 weeks. And so once they started counting, they started to see the truth of the matter, which has probably, unfortunately, always been the truth, that, Black women do worse. And, it's really not about our genetics, right? It's not about even how much money we have or how well we eat or if we exercise. It's really about systemic racism, implicit bias, lack of, cultural competency, lack of, a staff that sees you, hears you, respects you, is willing to care about you. And so that's why it's important to have people who not only look like you, but, understand your background, can relate. That's a huge part. It's called the therapeutic rapport, right? So unless your provider actually cares about you on a human level, right, outside of your condition, you're not going to be able to develop that therapeutic rapport that makes you feel comfortable to reach out when something is wrong, you know, um, that makes you feel comfortable to talk about that thing that's been nagging in the back of your mind, but that you might be afraid to say to a white physician. Maybe you don't want to look dumb, or maybe you feel like he's doesn't have time, or maybe might not even care. When you have a person who you can relate to, and it's not only being Black is a huge part of it, right? But it's also like from your community, right? From where you're from, understands the environment that you come from. It makes a big difference in developing that therapeutic rapport. So some of the reasons that, women are dying, especially in the postpartum period, are related to like mental health stuff. Suicide is the number one cause of postpartum mortality.
Wow.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Clearly that has to do with relationship, right?
Yeah.
A sense of support and having someone to talk to, and someone to step in when you're struggling.
I mean,
Oh, was somebody gonna say something?
I think Jen was trying to say something.
Yeah.
But
the thing I was gonna say is I don't have the experience in terms of being a mother or going through a pregnancy or delivery. But as a Black woman who has gone through 2 cancer journeys, like I can definitely say that having someone there who understands, like you're saying, your upbringing, like the different things that you've experienced, having somebody who can understand that if I'm saying I'm in pain or this doesn't feel right or I'm hurting or something like that, like they will tune into that and acknowledge it and try to figure out what needs to be done. Whereas there have been plenty of times that I've been in the doctor's office and I may be talking to somebody who is not Black, who is not a woman or something, and I'm saying like I don't feel good, it seem right or whatever, and it's brushed over. So it's like, oh well, just try this and tell us again in at your next appointment. I want to see you better. Telling me is that I come here now and told you I'm pain or something doesn't feel right. You want me to wait an additional 4 months for you to see if I'm still there. Like, why can't you take what I'm saying right now into consideration and let's work on it? So yeah, it's crazy. Like this
Yeah.
this world does not
Well,
listen to
well,
women and the women of
what's
color.
what's
Yeah.
interesting is when you look at the field of obstetrics and gynecology in this country, it was really founded. The foundation of it comes from experimentation that was done on female slaves.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
how to do a
Right.
C-section. We figured that out, you know what I mean, by doing operations on female
Right.
slaves. And up until not even that, recently they were, up until pretty recently, the teaching in med school was that Black people don't feel pain.
Yeah.
I heard of that.
You
Yep.
know, that was real teaching. So explicit. So it's not just the implicit stuff, but also the legacy of,
Yeah.
how we're treated. So
Mm-hmm. Cam, I know you had a question before we came on. Do you remember what it was?
No, she answered it because I was thinking when we're speaking on deaths that we're talking during childbirth as well. And I was wondering like, okay, what, why are Black women dying during childbirth? What are they not getting? But you answered it. The fact that is rooted in racism. They feel like that we can take pain. They're not tending to our mental health. So you answered all of those.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Answered for me.
And it's not just a mortality, right? So that's the death, it's also the morbidity. So when we talk about morbidity, that's like, illness, problems, that are long lasting. Um, and the other piece, I always like to say, yes, Black people in general, we experience the worst outcomes, but Americans in general have awful outcomes, even if they're Caucasian, even if they're wealthy Caucasian. And a lot of it has to do with the capitalization of care, and the fact that care is so technocratic, meaning that there's so
Mm.
much use of technology to a point where it's not even helpful. It actually starts to hurt, and so we're talking about like electronic fetal monitoring, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It's something that's been in the birth room for a long time. There's never been any research to show that it actually improves outcomes. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Medicine is supposed to be built
Well,
on science, but there's no research to ever show that electronic fetal medicine monitoring actually improves outcomes. But what we do know, there is research that states that it leads to more C-sections,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's morbidity when you have women, healthy women and
right.
birthing people that are going into a hospital, have a baby, and they come out with major abdominal surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. And it's just thinking about all of that information and all of the news that you see kind of skewing negatively on Black birth. How do you educate your clients on their options and prepare them for birth from a lens of joy, right? Because you and I kind of talked about the idea of um, birth being this sort of spiritual moment, right, where we're bringing new life into the world. So how do you prepare your clients for that?
Yeah. Um, so what's interesting is our clients are kind of self-selected, we don't really do a lot of marketing. Like the birthing center that I work with, it's 5 of us. We're freestanding, so we don't have any association with hospitals. We're a small business, Black woman owned, Howard University alum, 35 years in the game, serving the DC metro area. And we don't really do any marketing. It's all word of mouth. So people that come to us tend to be people who have educated themselves to some degree,
Mm.
you know, um, people who've had babies in the hospital system and, realize that, wait a minute, there's got to be something better than this. Or people who come from certain traditions where out of hospital birth is the norm, like Catholic people, believe it or not, they have a lot of that in their community. So they already kind of know that we're the answer. But there have been a lot of people since COVID, especially, who are, and especially since Black maternal mortality is more in the public conscience, that are coming to us, not really knowing what we're all about, but hoping that we're a solution, to that. And with those individuals, we have to a lot of times do a lot of sort of unlearning of those ideas around birth, those fear-based concepts, the needing to control everything, induction of labor, is a big
Yeah.
thing right now. There was some research that came out that said if you induce a lady at 39 weeks, it doesn't change her outcomes. So, of course, why are we not going to do it? That's a charge, right? You bringing her in, you're giving her this medication, that medication, all of those are billable items. So now everybody's getting induced. Now people don't know what it's like to go to 40 weeks. They don't know what it's like to go to 41 weeks. They don't know what it's like to go 40. And all of that is normal. So we have to do a lot of unlearning. When we bring people in, we like them to start in the first trimester, because it's not just about the thing that you think it's about. It's about getting to know the person as an individual. Our first sessions are an hour long. And I don't just start digging into all your gynecological stuff. I'm like, hey, how are you? Where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What brought you here? What's your vision for your birth? And we continue. Our visits are about 30 minutes long. Our routine visits, 30 minutes of face-to-face. We encourage you to do childbirth education. We encourage you to have a doula, especially if, maybe your first baby, or, we feel like you have a lot of unlearning to do. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. And so we just normalize it. We don't make a big deal. Yeah, the reality is, in the general population, the maternal mortality rate is high. But in our population, it's not,
Yeah.
And so, it's not a huge conversation. Now, we do have a transfer rate of about 10%. So 10% of the time, only 2 to 3% of the time are the emergency transfers. The other, 7-8% are for like an epidural or Pitocin. And so we send them to hospitals that have midwives that are empowered, that understand and respect who we are, understand our clients, and are going to take good care of them. And guess what? They have good experiences, and most of the time they have normal vaginal deliveries. So it's really about relationships that we build with the client, and then relationships that we have with providers throughout the region.
Now, one thing that I did not know is that there was a difference between a doula and a midwife. So explain the difference between a doula, a midwife, and what was the third one? What was it?
OBGYN.
OBGYN.
Right. So I always like to say the two oldest professions are what?
OBG.
Not OBGYN.
A streetwalker.
Walker, also known as a prostitute. And a midwife. Two oldest professions. The profession of obstetrics and gynecology, physicians, that's a fairly new profession. It's a true story. The Bible talks about the midwives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, midwife, it means with women. So nurse midwives now, that is a newer profession, okay? Nurses first, registered nurses, and then midwives. Nurse midwives really came about as a way to create a midwife that could be subjugated underneath doctors or subjected to doctors' orders. The original traditional midwives, the granny midwives, right? They were autonomous free women. They were in the class of the witches and the healers. They were powerful and feared, and they did the work, and they were called. And the community, it wasn't about going to school and paying money and getting a certificate and now you can practice. It was about usually an older midwife who was ready to retire would train you. She would choose you, train you, and then the community would see that you were associated and affiliated with her, and then they would accept you. So it was more of a preceptorship type model, and a calling, And in every indigenous culture, they have midwives. Um, then physicians came into play, and physicians originally were wealthy white men, owning white men who self-selected, community and select them. They selected themselves. They created their schools. They gave themselves certificates, and they started to practice. And the midwife had, as being the person to attend births, had a lot of work in that arena, right? People are always being born, and especially back in the day, people having 5, 6, 7 kids. And so if you look at the history of how midwives were pushed out, it was really for economic reasons, because physicians wanted to have more of a place in that, in that industry. And so, propaganda, they're dirty, they're uneducated, because midwives were also involved in abortion, right? All type of work along the reproductive lifespan, right? You mean, why would you go to anybody else? You're pregnant, you're continuing the pregnancy, you're pregnant and you don't want to continue, you're going to go to the same person.
Right.
And so that was part of how they were humanized and pushed out. And then this whole nurse midwife thing was created so that you could still keep your pulse on the nurse midwife, which is why 97% of nurse midwives work in a hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. So and I won't say the boldest of us are outside of the hospital, but to some degree, the boldest of us are outside of the hospital, outside of the system, outside of the capitalistic, technocratic, physician dominated system.
Wow.
So
wow. Thank you. I would really appreciate that.
And last but not least, at all, a doula is a practical support in birth, making sure you stay uplifted, lifting your morale, helping you get into different positions, keeping you fed, keeping you nourished, being there with you from the very beginning to the very end, right? The word means servant. So in every way that a birthing person would need service, a doula is to do that. They don't really focus on the medical aspect of it. They're not checking your cervix. They're not giving you medications, they're right there by your side through the whole entire thing, ideally. We're not going to talk about the new doulas out there. But some of the new doulas, unfortunately, just want to show up in active labor, but that's not how it was originally, not when I first came into this work, And then OBGYNs are physicians, but they're surgeons, and essentially they're pathologists, meaning that they deal with pathology, like when things are wrong. So I always say, if you need your teeth cleaned, do you want to go with a hygienist or do you want to go with an oral surgeon? Because an oral surgeon is going to want to do surgery because that's what they like to do. And so is there any wonder why our C-section rate is like 30%? Because everyone's going to surgeons and thinking they're not going to get surgery. No, you're going to get surgery because that's what surgeons do.
So you can have a midwife and a doula.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, everyone has a doula. I mean, I had a doula. I didn't know she was a doula. She was comfortable with birth, and she was my companion, so I didn't feel alone.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so important too, especially when you're going through that process and you don't know everything. You have that person right by you that if you have questions, you can call them and ask them, and they don't, push you one way or another, but they can provide you with the information so that you can work with your midwife to make a decision that's best for you and for your baby.
Right.
Ebony, I have learned so much. Before we close out, my last question is, what do you hope to contribute to the lineage of birth work as a midwife? Like, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, when I started this work, my number one goal was to own and operate a freestanding birthing center. And then I became a midwife, and I got into the world, and I started getting very nervous about that. It's a huge endeavor. My boss is actually retiring next year, and so birth care and women's health 35 years is going to be looking for a new lead. And it could be me. I'm still learning all that I need to learn. But I think my particular calling is really just to share the good word, which is why I'm doing this show, which is why I'll do just about any show, that has an audience, because, it amazes me that people just don't, they have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, and, birth has just been depicted as something that is just excruciating and painful. And while, I don't know how many orgasmic births I've seen, there is something in between, where it's intense, but you can do it. You have everything you need in order to, have that experience and it be a positive experience. So I think that's my thing, is just culture shift, being a resource. And I think once people really understand the importance, like I was mentioning earlier, peace on earth begins with birth. Once people really understand the importance of um, that life, event, then they will start demanding, the support from their insurance companies, the support, from their providers, the support from their community. It really needs to be a grassroots type movement, because there's so much money being made that it's not going to come, from the providers or from the hospitals or from the insurances. It needs to come from the people.
Right.
I
Right.
love it. I love it. Everyone, that is Ebony Simpson, certified nurse midwife. You guys can follow Ebony at Ebony_M_Simpson_CNM. You can also find her on birthcare.org. I will make sure to drop this in the comments so you guys will have it. But thank you so much, Ebony, for being on here. Definitely want you to stick around for a little while as we transition into our Chi Chi Shake shout out, because my shout out is definitely to you, Ebony. Number one, for coming on and educating us, and number two, for staying up with us, because girl, I know you could be in the bed. Birth work is work.
Gotta get naps whenever we can.
Girl, so my Chi Chi Shake shout out goes to Ebony. Hey. And I also want to shout out her place of work, Birth Care and Women's Health. Please tell the folks how awesome Birth Care and Women's Health is and the owner.
Man, it should be called concierge birth service. The amount of time and attention that our clients are spoiled. They call me, text me all the time. We love it. We love providing personalized service. The center has been around for 35 years, King Street, Alexandria, Virginia, in the same place, serving the DC metro area. We're Black woman owned, Howard University owned. And it's just a phenomenal place. We have a information session every second and fourth Tuesday. So feel free to call. It's open to the community. A midwife facilitates it, and you can get all your questions answered. So check us out.
Love it. Thank you, Ebony. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jen, I'm gonna try to help you get your Chi Chi Shake shout out, girl.
Nice.
Jen, you want to do your Chi Chi Shake shout out?
Oh yes. So I'm gonna shout out, because it's Black owned and veteran owned. It is called True Laundry Detergent. And you can find them on Instagram at the True Products. So yeah, I've used their detergent before, and it is very, very good. It's also eco-friendly, and like I said, Black and veteran owned. So check them out.
That's what's
Yeah,
up.
trueproducts.com. Thank you, Chi Chi Shake. To Black owned detergent, y'all. Black owned detergent. Cam, you are up. Give us your Chi Chi Shake shout out.
I want to give a Chi Chi Shake shout out to pocketfulofstones1.com. If Christmas is coming up and we're talking about health and wellness, If you guys are into crystals and healing through energy, please check out www.pocketfulofstones1.com. She's based in Houston, hence the name Pocket Full of Stones. But it's real, a lot of bracelets, jewelry, pendants, palm stones, things like that. Chi
That's
Chi
what's up.
shake.
Chi Shake. That's for all my UGK fans. RIP. And certainly not least, Ebony, please give your Chi Shake shout outs.
I just want to shout out my beautiful daughter, Ananda, who does my makeup for every event, every Friday night, every date night. You can check her out at Beats by Nana. She's in the DC
Okay.
metro area and she is available for work.
I love it.
Bring
Yes,
it up,
mom is like, she is
Nana.
available for work. Chi Shake on that.
You got bills to pay.
I love it. I love it.
That's what's up.
Oh man. Well, once again, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. This is the Meet in the Ladies Room podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where you have the opportunity to listen in to what goes on in the ladies' room. We are so happy today to have Ebony Simpson, certified nurse midwife, joining us on this very, very important conversation. I really wanted to take some time and talk about the idea of the strong Black woman, right? I'm pretty sure all of us at some point have, heard it or maybe have been called it. So for me, like when you hear strong Black woman, what do you guys think of?
I think of all my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy. I had to fight my uncles. Nah, but just a Black woman who's constantly going through, and picking herself back up, going through, picking herself back up, And I think nowadays, it's become just a tad toxic, you know, trying to remain this
Mhm.
strong Black woman, because at the end of the day, it affects your mental health, trying
Mhm.
to remain strong and keep it together. And I'm just now learning that it's okay to cry in front of your kids, you know. So it's strong Black woman, it encompasses all, but at the same time, I'm tired.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Ebony, your
Right.
thoughts?
Strong Black woman to me sounds like no help.
So I'm gonna say, okay, go ahead, Ebony.
It sounds like no help. Like ain't no help coming. Like you better be strong, girl. Like you on your own. Like yeah, I don't like the way it sounds at all. Like I don't want to be a strong Black woman. Like I
Right.
want to be like a woman that don't have to be strong,
Right.
because she got a community, she got people she can pick up the phone and call. Like she could be strong if she want to, just because it's fun, but she ain't got to, all the time. Um, yeah, I think our generation is a little different, which I really appreciate. And I'm an 81 baby. So maybe some of us are there, some of us are not, but I'm definitely in the like, I'm gonna need to take it a little easy. I'm not gonna try. I'm not trying to be stretched super, 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 super thin. Like that's not a good look for me.
Right.
I need time to take bubble baths. I need, I need time to just sit around and stay off in the space.
Yep.
Well, I need self pleasure time.
Yep.
Girl, yes, yes.
Right.
Speak on
Yep.
that. Speak
Yeah.
on
Right.
that.
I'm not into it. So yeah, strong Black woman. I'm gonna sit that one out.
I know that's right. Then holler at us. What's your idea behind strong
Right.
Black woman?
For me, I
Yeah.
think the word that comes to mind is survivor. And I think when that survivor term is placed on a Black woman, is not given the same softness or vulnerability that is given, because survivor becomes, you done been through the mud, you done been through heartbreak, you've been through microaggressions, you've been through pain, you've been through turmoil with family and friends, stronger because you're a survivor, you know, but for somebody else, it is all this stuff was placed on you. How can we help you? How can we love on you? How can we show you that, you know, you don't have to fight by yourself? Like that kind of survivor is given to other women that are not Black. So I want to be the vulnerable, transparent survivor. Yes, there are mountaintops in my journey, and I want you to cheer me on for those. But there are also times when I am hurting, and if I post something or if I'm not as responsive on me, like the survivor can also pain and like check in on Black woman.
Yeah.
Because she don't want to be out here doing all this alone. She don't want to do life alone. That could be family, friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, check in on the strong Black woman because
Right.
we are a lot, but still need help. I mean, so that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Angela?
I mean, it's, you know, my story is very colorful, right? Like I've had a lot of trauma in my background. I'm a domestic violence survivor twice over. You know, I've dealt with a lot of things, and so people always want to label me as this, you know, strong person, you know, because I've gone through these things. But honestly, I wasn't a strong person, which is why I struggled to go through all of these things. So, you know, when people are talking about this idea of the strong Black woman, right? Like we're the ones that kind of bear all and take all, and you know it's great for us to, you know, to be the caretakers, and especially Black women, because we're seen as, you know, the pillars of our community. It's like we're out here taking care of everything and everyone. Man, who's taking care of us, right? Like it's not just us being out there and in the workforce and, you know, raising our kids and, you know, taking care of our parents. Like we put on a lot of emotional labor too, and then all of those other things that we have to deal with on a regular basis of not just being Black but being a woman. Like we get it twice as hard as anyone else does. You know what I'm saying? It's like show us the most disrespected person. that's right here. So, you know, I understand people want to, you know, uplift by saying that we're strong, but really it does us a disservice. And there's actually like research on it, right? Like I was reading about this one doctor who decided to do a study on it because she was working on something else, and the one thing that she kept hearing from, you know, from young Black women is this idea of them having to be, you know, strong like their mom was, right? The idea of, you know, having to go through all of this turmoil to prove themselves, you know, as young women. And I think that's really sad. Like I definitely don't want my girl growing up thinking that, you know, she needs to bear all and take all, and that's supposed to be some sort of rite of passage. I want my daughter to understand that rest is important. Taking care of yourself is important. And I think we as a community, we've been going so hard for so long. You know, for some of us, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
It really, really is. But that's the biggest thing that I really wanted to kind of bring across is this idea of softness, right? Like it's like Jennifer said, Black women want to be soft. Like we want to be held. We want to, like Cam, we want to be able to feel like we can cry in front of our kids, and that's not weakness, because guess what? Our kids need to see us soft because they need to know that it's okay to cry, right? Like think about how our elders dealt with stress in general, right? Like Cam, how did your mom handle stress when you were younger? Oh, you on mute, babe? Girl, you on mute? Cam, you gotta unmute yourself.
I'm just talking.
Girl, you was making that point too.
I was wondering why the reactions wasn't mentioned.
If you read lips,
girl.
But what I was saying was, I really don't know how my mama handled stress, and that's a good question to ask her. Because one time I did find a pack of cigarettes in the glove compartment, and she was not a smoker at all. And there were still a lot of cigarettes. And I'm like, what was this? And she kind of laughed at herself. She was like, I caught myself trying to smoke a cigarette. So I need to ask her, like, how did how did you deal with stress? Because I don't know. That's a good question.
I think
My mama.
for me, like looking at my mom, I think what I learned and what I am fighting against right now, the way my mom dealt with stress from my perspective was through prayer and
Mm.
like Christian practices, rituals, whatever. And for a very long time, I felt like that was something that she passed on to me. So I would pray about things. I wholeheartedly trusted that, like if I did things a certain way or repented for certain things, like things would be okay. And I think like with my mom now having dementia and me at a place where like I've been through two cancer journeys, and my mom's had cancer, my dad's had cancer, now my mom has dementia, is I'm questioning like my spiritual foundation. And so it makes me question like her way of dealing with stress. Um, and I think that's something that has led a lot of people close to me to kind of like isolate themselves from me because they are still very much so reliant on prayer, and I'm questioning. So I don't know. It's like watching my mom's way of dealing with her stress, and then me trying to incorporate, even if it's stones, crystals, therapy, whatever. Like I'm trying to find my way to get back to a place of peace. For this like new journey, and my place of peace is not resting solely in prayer. So I don't know.
Amen to that.
Maybe I
Amen.
went off
I did see my
topic,
mom
but
meditate.
that's just
She
me.
does do that, but I wonder, like, the instant. How did she deal? She says breathing, but that don't work for me. But yeah.
Ebony, what about you?
You know, I wonder if my mom is watching. You know, you gotta like, be careful when you're talking about your mama in public. Um, my mom was the first of 6 kids, so she is the epitome of strong Black woman, and she has always been like the rock, you know, wherever, like in her friend group, in her family. So she set the bar really, really high. When she was stressed, my mom ate. She ate,
Mm.
and she ate biscuits, buns, rolls, you know, and she would bring them home, and I was eating them too. And I had a big old pot belly when I was in high school because of all the biscuits and buns and honey rolls and cinnamon toast crunch and all the carbs, right?
Mhm.
When my mom moved to Florida when I was about 17 and I stayed in my dad's house, I dropped 16 pounds.
Wow.
Not even on purpose, but just because, all the biscuits and buns was gone. So she ate. And then the other thing she did was she worked. She focused on her bag. Okay. Until this day, like my mother's supposed to be, she's so funny. She won't even tell anybody what her age is at her job because she don't want nobody talking about when you gonna retire.
Mhm.
So she wearing the brown wig, covering up the grays, making sure people don't know. Because I don't think she ever want to stop, focusing on the bag. So, a little bit of a workaholic tendency, right? And kind of wants to pull herself away from it. But I think it was the thing that, especially when she started having issues with my dad, the thing that she could bank on, to know that she was going to be okay and her family was going to be okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting hearing from everyone like what we learned because we learn from our parents, right? So however they cope with stress, like that's the
Mhm.
way that we would attempt to handle it, like Jennifer said. And girl, I could get on my soapbox about the prayer solves everything, but I digress. But you know, I think our generation is just is so important that we learn how to better manage stress, right? Because as Black women, it's just gonna happen. It's innate. That's just what unfortunately our environment brings to us every day. But like learning different ways to reset. And Jennifer, I applaud you for, you know, being in that journey and, you know, trying to find your way to do it, because I think we all kind of live in this social media world where everybody is bombarding you with their, you know, special way of getting rid of stress, and do this 5 minute this, or, you know, do this retreat or whatever. And it's just, it really is not a one size fits all type
Listen,
of situation.
Yeah.
for one thing, with my mom having dementia, and me being told by neurologists, me reading articles and learning more, I did my final focus in grad school on the changes from being like a spouse to a caregiver for dementia. Like all of this, my last few years have been focused on trying to figure out, you know, like how best to support my parents. And in the midst of that, I lost myself. So
Mhm.
I think now that I'm like reclaiming some of this, but also looking at the fact that my mom, like to me, was one of the strongest people I knew, and was a person that I could call and be my raw and vulnerable self with. And to be losing that person at this age is hard. But I also like the first part that I was saying, as far as learning more about dementia, they say that a lot of the ailments that happen in our community are precursors to dementia. And stress and depression is a part of that. And for me to walk around like feeling as stressed as I am, like one of my fears is that like I've seen this woman who I thought was strong come down with dementia. So what if her way of dealing with her stress wasn't beneficial because now she has dementia? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how can I, for me, do what is best for me mentally, spiritually, physically, whatever, like getting into the gym, like trying to stay consistent with that. Yes, I still eat potatoes, even though my, trainer told me not to. I'm still giving myself some pleasures, but I'm still trying to figure out like how best to help me. You know what I'm saying? So that if depression and stress is something that leads to dementia, at least I'm trying to combat those two things. You know what I'm saying? It may happen, it may not, but just trying to be a better person. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely and totally feel you on that. And I don't think a lot of people understand some of the health conditions that are brought on from, you know, living under stress for so long. Like I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia the same year I got pregnant with my last child. And what I learned was that all of my pregnancies were extremely difficult, not because my pregnancies were difficult, it was because I had this underlying medical condition that I had no idea. So I have literally been living with chronic pain for the majority of my life, thinking that it was something normal, you know, just tired or whatever, when really it was me, you know, pushing through to make sure that, you know, I'm okay, making sure my kids are okay, you know, but like Ebony and I had talked before, you know, we both had our first kids when we were in college. So imagine like momming and working and going to school. And I had been on go from the time that I had my son all the way up until, you know, I had my last son, and still am, you know, going at a pace that I probably shouldn't. But that's another thing that we need to be cognizant of too, right? It's not just, you know, your heart giving out, or, you know, you getting dementia. Like you can literally cause your
Mm-hmm.
body to shoot off pain neurons every single time you get stressed out. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like I can get stressed out because the dishes are not done, and while I'm not outwardly freaking out, like my brain is telling my body, oh shit, she's stressed out about that. pain. And, you know, and I have to be, and I don't, that's something I have to be medicated for. I don't want to be medicated for something like that, but it happens and it's stress induced. And I realized how many other Black women deal with the same thing, that chronic pain, but it's never diagnosed because, of course, the medical field doesn't take us seriously when we talk about our pain. You know what I mean? I remember I went to go see a doctor and she told me I was making it up. And I'm like, don't think that I would make up being in bed all day crying, right? Like, because that's not real.
Right.
So the whole idea of, you know, overcoming everything and being strong, and, you know, I don't want to be seen as someone who has consistently overcome things. Just shit happens, she overcame that, and this shit happened, and then she overcame that. I want to be like, she was happy, she was safe, she was loved. Like, that's what I want. Like,
Right.
that's what I want my legacy to be.
Right.
I don't want my legacy to be that, you know, I overcame a bunch of bullshit. I want to be that
She withstood a whole bunch of pain.
Yes, that is not what the hell I want my legacy to be at all. Like, I want to leave this world as somebody that was soft and was happy and led with love. Like, that's what I want for myself.
Yeah.
All right now.
Yes. So on that note, y'all, we have come to the part of our show where we are.
I want a partner to share that with. So if anybody wants send me an inbox message.
What you
repeat yourself?
What you looking for? Let the people know what.
Let me be soft with you, okay?
3 to 4 characteristics. What you looking for in a man or partner?
What I'm looking for right now, it's not even about necessarily looks, but it is about like your heart, like somebody that will understand or empathize with the caregiver role. You know what I'm saying? Like the ebbs and flows of life. Like, just be willing to be in communication. Like, if you can communicate with me, you can keep the lines of communication open, and you can understand that today I might be on the phone laughing with you, and tomorrow I might be crying. Like, allow me to be in those spaces with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm looking for. But I'm not gonna say they know kind of physically. I'm not gonna put myself
to
there
say
like
a
that,
name.
but I will say, no, it's not a name, but one pair of breasts in the bed, and that's mine. Goes.
Oh Lord.
Right. That's what she gets to give a shit.
That's what I'm for.
Well, I hope you get it for Christmas.
That's it.
Yes.
And no lipomas, okay?
No lipomas.
You gotta watch our old episodes to get that.
This is where you messing up.
You gotta watch our old episodes, Ebony, to get that
Let a
joke.
lipoma get in your way of love. Come on now. But a fat deposit.
I love it.
See, that's why they be single.
All right, y'all. So we've come to that part of the show.
Okay, if you have a lipoma, but you're willing to go like get it removed, I'll go with you because I want to see it in person. So, like, if you willing for me to say, like, bruh, we need to get this, you need to get this fat deposit like cut out of your forehead. Like, if you willing to do that, I will go with you. So DMs are open. But you can't be up there and let me look at it look at me, and we not acknowledge it. Okay.
You're about to go on her lipoma rant. Somebody
I was
stop
about
her.
to say that's what Jen is letting go of. Jen is letting go of her fear of lipoma. So if you have a lipoma, but you still are willing to let her be soft with you, and eventually you'll get that shit cut off. Hit up her inbox, please.
At Genesis Rose.
I'm dead. I'm dead.
I love it. Ebony,
okay.
As our guest, tell us what are you letting go of this week? Like, when we say let shit go, we mean let it go, flush it down the toilet, walk out of the ladies' room not carrying it anymore.
Ooh, what am I letting go of? Ooh, that's a hard one.
Want
You
us to
didn't
come
prepare
back to
me for
you?
that one. Well, I think, well, let me just throw it out there. I'm letting go. Okay, so let me give you all a little bit of background. So, for the first time ever, I am bringing a man to Thanksgiving dinner, y'all.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's freaking
cheesy
huge.
shirt.
I was
Love
about to
it.
say,
Yeah,
give me
that's
cheesy
a
shake that. We cheesy
cheesy
shake
shake around
that.
the living
Yes.
room
Put a little
table.
bounce with it.
Right. So I'm letting go. I'm letting go because you know your family don't never want to let you change, right? In your
Mm-mm,
family's
mm-mm.
eye, you're always the same person.
Right.
But I'm letting go of being that person for my family. And I'm stepping into being who I am today, 2022.
Ooh,
Brought a man at
nice.
Thanksgiving dinner, Ebony.
Love it.
So
I
that's
love
what I'm
it.
letting go.
I love it, girl. I love it.
I
I
love it.
love
Yeah, yeah.
Yikes.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
it.
Whoa.
Her name is.
I'm getting laid.
Kim, baby, what you letting go this week?
Oh my God. What am I what am I letting go of? Did I say fear? Have I said fear before? I probably feel like I'm always saying fear.
Girl, you gotta let it go.
Letting
You
go
gotta let
of
it go.
fear of the unknown, um, fear of not guarantees, just fear of
Mhm.
uncertainty. Just go through with it. Just jump out there and see.
I know that's
Mhm.
What's your
right.
Okay.
fear?
Yeah.
Jen, I know I gave yours, but do you for real? Do you have one that you're letting go of?
So yes, I am
Don't
letting
say
go of guilt
lipoma.
and anger.
Yeah.
No, I'm letting go of guilt and anger over past events because I think that's where a lot of my stress comes from is stressing about stuff that happened in the past and then worrying about stuff in the future. So
Mhm.
guilt and anger and just be present. That's what I'm letting go.
I
That's a
love
good
it.
one.
I love it. I am letting go of not walking in the person that I am supposed to be, right? I don't
Mhm.
think I'm always my true intrinsic self. Um, yeah. I'm tired of the strong black woman trope, y'all. So that's the shit that I'm letting go. I am completely letting that shit go. That
Mm.
is it.
I
Do
like
it.
it. I love it.
Thank
Do it.
you. Thank you. Well, everyone, we did it. I did a show without Jenna. Jenna, I missed you so much.
We miss
Cassie, I missed
Janny,
you. We
Cassie
missed you
Ashley.
guys so much. But Ebony, thank you so much for being here
Yay.
with us. I really
For
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
having
Y'all, please go and follow her, Ebony
me.
underscore M underscore Simpson underscore CNM. You can also find her at www.birthcare.org. That is www.birthcare.org.
Y'all, and we do all things women, even if you're not, or I should say, uterus oriented, right? Even if you're not having babies, but if you need your pap smear, your contraceptives, your STI testing, or your, menopause hormones, whatever it is on in the lifespan, you can come and see us.
I love it.
Dope.
I love it. So I'm always gonna promote us, y'all. If you're watching
I
us on
wish I lived up
YouTube,
there.
please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll get notifications. If you're on Facebook, please like our page. If you're on IG, please make sure you follow us. It's at huladiesroom.com. As always, we want to give a special shout out to our producer Dana with Makita Filmworks, who kind of helps us keep things together when we cannot keep things together. So, Dana, thank you so much. Also, want to thank Money Maybach 76 for our awesome intro and outro. We love, love, love our music. And while I'm giving shout outs, I'm just going to shout out our brother podcast at Straight No Chaser, the No Chaser podcast, Straight No Chaser. They are still going strong. I think their last episode is December 1st. So make sure y'all catch our brother podcast. It's at STR the number 8.no.chaser.podcast. Ladies,
Yeah.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you,
This
Ebony.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
Having
Thank
me.
you, everyone
Thank
who
you,
watched.
Ebony.
Yes, yes. We will be taking a break for the holiday, but we will be back Thursday, December 1st at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for a very special episode. So stay tuned for that,
Woo-hoo.
folks. All right. All right, ladies. We out this
And we
joint.
out.
Good
All right.
night.
Meet me in the ladies.